One of the most fun things we did last year was the Sport for Business Super Quiz, coming at a time during the first lockdown when we needed a bit of a laugh. We decided that we were going to go back in and do it all over again in 2021. And over the past 7 days, we've been doing all of the qualifying rounds to produce 8 quarterfinalists. It's been a lot of fun. There have been a few tears, tantrums, the occasional piece of Anglo-Saxon language, but we got through it. And here are some of the highlights from the qualifying rounds. One of the first rules of Quiz Club is that when you're thinking of the answer, you try not to give it away to the opponent who is going to be coming after you to pick up a bonus point. That didn't quite work out for the GAA, with balls.ie ready, willing and able to knock in the rebound off the post. What was the name given to the parliamentary side that fought in the English Civil War?
The English Civil War. So was that the round helmets and the round hats, or?
Or round hats in, thanks for idea.
Going with round hats? Nope, I won't give that one to you. It goes to balls.
Round heads.
There's a lot of faith in that answer, I tell you that.
There was round helmets I heard as well.
No, I think it is though. That was the first thing that came into my head before anyone said anything was round heads, but I don't know.
Okay, let's go round heads. I like
round heads. I'm afraid it is, David. Last year's champions were Tineo, led by their captain Mick O'Keefe, and Mick seems to have a bit of an insight into the quizmaster's mental state.
I actually think it might be Tokyo as well, and I think that's why he's asking the question. I'm just trying to get into the warped mind of Rob.
That insight wasn't enough, though, to get Tineo through. So we know that we're going to have a new champion in 2021. Could it have been last year's losing finalists, 2 into 3? Well, they must have thought that they had a fair chance when they heard the willingness to down tools that their opponents Wilson Hartnell had on one of their questions.
Oh, well, then I have to breathe. You're on top of this.
Yeah. Happy to go whatever you guys think, because I haven't the foggiest idea.
I'll say Estonia for some reason. It's I don't know.
Yeah, they've produced a couple of athletes individually, strangely.
I'm thinking there's definitely been a pole vaulter or a discus thrower that's coming from Estonia. So let's say Estonia. I think Rob.
Yeah.
Very impressive, detailed knowledge of the state's Olympic prowess, because it was indeed Estonia. And for the second year in a row, 2 into 3 certainly won the prize for the most random, eclectic collection of sporting jerseys to wear into the contest. Which African country has supplied the world squash men's champion?
Squash. It seems very posh. Maybe like South Africa? I have no idea. What do you guys think?
I'm thinking it's something like Morocco or Algeria or someplace like that. Claire, any thoughts?
Oh.
But just because you look good doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go through. And they fell in a playoff to Wilson Hartnell. RTE Sport were first up and best dressed. In their first question, they decided to push themselves around a little bit. RTE Sport are first up, and the first question in your sporting round is: which city has hosted the modern Olympics more than any other?
Paris or London or Athens?
Jim, what's your instinct?
I think Athens only hosted it twice. Paris in 08, 24. Sorry, London in back in the day, and in 48, or sorry, in
2012
and 2012. So 3 times.
How many times?
Paris.
How many times did Paris get it?
The last time Paris was 1920. I think Paris might have been twice. So I think, I'm not sure.
Are we leaning to London?
Well, I mean, and then you have Los Angeles did it in 32 and 80. Sorry, no, I'm kind of clearing the way possibly.
They did it twice. Pat O'Callaghan and thing won there, and they did it in the 80s.
Yeah,
so whereas London did it 3 times.
Yeah, London. Yeah, I again, that's what I would. But look, what's your? Yeah,
Was London? Yeah, go for that.
Yeah, go for London.
we're off to a winning start with London anyway. That kind of felt as though the lads were just flexing their muscles a little bit there by naming the years and the individual winners that were. So well done. Whatever the intent, though, it didn't work because Future Ticketing were the ones to emerge from that particular group of death, leaving RTE Sport to battle it out in the qualifying playoff at the very end of the qualifying round. And Future Ticketing, of course, had a little bit of inside knowledge of their own.
My wife's a dietitian, and she's always trying to feed my kids vitamin A, and can't get them to eat carrots, and has found a milk in Aldi that has vitamin A in it. So I don't know. That's my logic.
Marrying a nutritionist, though, was nothing compared to the lengths that Shane Hannon went to in order to make sure that he was able to contribute to OTB Sports going through as one of the strongest contenders. Question 4. In which country is the highest mountain in Africa? OTB, a chance to steal a bonus point.
It's Tanzania, Shane, isn't it?
Yeah, luckily for me, I've climbed it, so it's Tanzania.
That's dedication to the cause, to have actually climbed the mountains that feature in this sport.
Just for this quiz, just so I know that answer.
Climbing a mountain, you think that's good? How about being an All-Ireland champion in a particular sport, giving you the inside edge on one particular question about sports that have and haven't taken place at the Olympic Games? So we then come to legacy. Your 3 remaining options are swimming, obstacle racing, croquet, or squash.
It seems though our MD is an international squash player that has represented his country across over 35s and soon to be over 40s.
I can tell you it's 100% squash.
And he would have been a multiple Irish Olympian, obviously.
If only, yeah.
But it never was, you are correct. Yeah, the idea of swimming obstacle racing is one that made me chuckle when I saw it. But
I'd watch that, Rob, if it was on.
It keeps losing out to the most random of sports, which you've listed.
I think that would be a bit fun, all right. The lads had a major technical failing in the course of that, which meant that they had to go together, obviously, in a correctly positioned social bubble for their team, but it wasn't enough to get them through. When you come up with these kind of ideas, sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning, they seem like a great idea at the time. Never mind the fact that you then have to go and figure out how to ask about 1,000 questions of a group of sometimes unruly people. It generally runs according to plan, but every now and again, even I get just a little bit confused, as Jill Downey quite politely, but quite correctly, pulled me up on.
Rob, can I just ask you something? I know this is being really pedantic, but did you definitely ask us 4 questions in sport? Because I could only count 3.
Did I ask you 4 questions in sport?
Yes, just Murray, the Olympic opening ceremony, and camogie, but I don't remember a 4th.
Camogie. You're absolutely right. Geez, good spot.
It was the turning point, Rob. That's where everything turned. You know?
And then this is the second half surge, is beginning when VAR steps in and actually gives you an additional question. Well, no, right
like
number.
Bruno Fernandes after the final whistle against Brighton there, after the halftime.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, for God's sake, always Man United.
There were a few really impressive rounds, but none more so than Siobhan Casey's in-depth knowledge of popular culture. It wasn't quite enough to get her to go through into the quarterfinals, but boy, oh boy, was she on top of her game.
La La Land, was it? James Corden, Black Panther, Rihanna.
Goodness, that is a powerful run through the.
Ross, we'll just go on mute, I think, for the next round, and we'll be back in a little while. I'm going to make some tea or maybe some coffee. Rob, we'll see you about 15-20 minutes.
Okay. One of the nice things about the quiz is that it's about so much more than just sport. Wrapping up the qualifiers, Clodagh Hannon wasn't much help, but Keith Walsh got himself in a right twist over Timmy's toolbox and maybe Tom Hanks' younger brother. Question 2. Which actor voices Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story movies?
Kids watch this. I should know this stuff.
It's the guy from Tim's Tool Time to Tim's. Patrick, do you know that?
No, I know Tom Hanks is in it, but I think he's Woody.
Do you know the guy who does Timmy's Tool Time TV show thing? No? Talks to the neighbor over the fence
No idea who Buzz Lightyear is.
Tim something. We're gonna have to pass, and I'm just gonna squirm here. Tim Hanks.
Tim Hanks, Tom's younger brother. No, that's not right. Sporting Pride.
Is it Tim Allen, Keith?
Tim
Allen, yeah.
Tim Allen as opposed to Keith Allen. Yeah. Tim Allen is the right answer.
And thanks, Keith Walsh, for the heads up there.
So after 7 rounds of qualifiers, we had 7 quarterfinalists. Only one more to go, and that was determined in a playoff between the 4 teams who had come closest to making sure of their place. Even this went right down to the wire, and in the end, Core Sponsorship, who pulled off a second half surge, managed to get to within an ace, but had to give second best by being too high on the number of kilometres from Dublin to Melbourne. It meant that RTE Sport claimed the final place in the quarterfinals, which now consists of these following 8 teams: the GAA, Future Ticketing, Pundit Arena, Wilson Hartnell, Dublin City Council, the Sport Ireland Campus, OTB Sport, and RTE Sport. Join us again in the coming days when the quarterfinal draw is made, competed for, and the semi-finalists produced in this year's Sport for Business Super Quiz.